Welcome, everybody. This is Mobility and Inclusion. I am Harut Markarian, and our guest today is the Adapted Physical Education Specialist, Ross Moore. In 2011, Ross graduated from Slippery Rock University of Pennsylvania with a degree in health and physical education. He taught adapted physical education for 3 years at a special day school in Pennsylvania. He served students from 3 to 21 years old with moderate to severe disabilities. After getting his master's degree in adapted physical activity in 2014, Ross accepted an adapted physical education position in Los Angeles, California. He continuously works to create an accepting and inclusive environment for all students with disabilities with all his school's talents. Ross believes creating inclusive schools will create a more accepting and inclusive community. Ross, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for giving us and our viewers the opportunity to learn from your experience.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yep. So before we dive into this, can you give us a bit of context into what is adapted physical education?
Adapted physical education definitely varies throughout the country, but I can speak specifically to how it is implemented in California. In California, adapted physical education is a service on students' individual education plans, and our adapted physical education specialists directly support students with disabilities to access their physical education environment.
Cool. So this is an individual-based program?
Yeah, it's definitely each student you develop a individual physical education goal for them, and then the service is provided depending on their disability. They receive more minutes depending on their impact and how much their disability impacts their accessibility.
All right.
So whether they're wheelchair users or students with intellectual disabilities, each situation is unique.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, thank you for explaining that to us. Now, you currently work at the Green Dot Public Schools. Can you please tell us a little bit about the Green Dot Schools and your role there?
Green Dot Public Schools, currently it's one of the largest public charter schools in the nation. They have locations in California, Washington, and Tennessee. Specifically where I'm at in Los Angeles, they focus on serving low-income communities and try to reduce the achievement gap between Black and Brown communities and then their more affluent communities. So primarily, that's the demographic that Green Dot Public School serves.
But it's not necessarily for students with disabilities, right? It's for everybody.
Yeah, it's for everybody. They operate there's been a couple school transformations that they've taken over in addition to starting their own schools in the low-income areas. So it's a general school, and then they offer general education in addition to a very robust special education opportunity for everyone. Awesome,
great. So I was reading your resume, and in it you said you designed a fully inclusive fitness room. Is that?
Yeah, it's in process. I was able to receive funding for the inclusive fitness room at the end of last year. Due to COVID, the funding did get delayed a little bit, but it's still coming our way. So right now, it's an idea that I've been working at for a long time, and we're looking into just bringing in some really unique specialized equipment that everyone can use. So the general education students could work right alongside our special education students, whether they have a physical disability or intellectual disability.
Okay, and with this, the fitness room that you're designing, well, first let me ask, how long did it take you to get the funding?
So luckily, I had a lot of support from Green Dot Public Schools, where they were able to connect me to a funding source. It probably took about 2 or 3 months. I wrote a grant and then did a presentation with my special education team, and shortly after we were awarded the grant. So it took about 2 months to complete. But yeah, that was definitely one of the biggest barriers to creating a fitness room that was accessible to everybody. Because at the moment, the fitness room that is at the high school I'm at is very limited in modern fitness equipment. So it definitely wasn't accessible to a lot of students with disabilities.
Oh, well, seems like you did a great job accessing those funds, right?
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, usually that's one of the hardest parts, but no, it's just bringing the idea to life that I'm looking forward to, but just on a little bit of delay due to COVID.
yeah, I mean, everything is delayed due to COVID, but no, I'm glad you were able to obtain these funds, and you're serving these kids. Now, when you design the fitness room, you're designing the fitness room for everyone, right? Regardless of their disability or ability, whatever you might want to call it, everyone can use it. So we're
Yeah.
kind of talking about here, getting into universal design, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
All right. So what equipment did you put in the fitness room, or you're planning on putting in the fitness room that was used both for, for students
Yeah.
with?
I mean, honestly, that's definitely still a work in progress. My initial idea was to just really update all of the fitness equipment or even the weight machines, because a
Mhm.
lot of our students with disabilities, they need the guidance of a machine rather than free weights. So the specific fitness room I'm looking at is more machine based and cardio based, with a lot of visual supports and visual reinforcements
Mhm.
for our students with intellectual disabilities. And then also some of those weight machines, I've seen a lot of different weight machines where the seat of the machine kind of swings out of the way. So a wheelchair user would be able to back the wheelchair into the exercise location and just be able to engage right away. And then also, if an able-bodied person wanted to use the same machine, they would just put the seat right back in the location, and it could be used for everyone.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. So have you ever thought about, well, you do physical education. Do you also participate in activities such as, like social activities with these kids? Do you participate in that?
Yeah, specifically, I've recently partnered with Special Olympics Southern California,
Hmm.
and within the past 10 years, Special Olympics really have been pushing inclusive school movement called Unified Champion Schools. Three main pillars of Unified Champion Schools is unified leadership, so students with and without disabilities organizing leadership activities. Um, Whole school engagement, so organizing assemblies related around disability awareness,
Hmm.
and then lastly, unified sports.
Oh, nice, nice. Um, you also trained and incorporated para-educators.
Mhm.
Well, let's talk about what para-educators are first.
Paraeducators are um, employees that are employed by the school that specifically either are one-on-ones to students with moderate to severe disabilities, or are also assigned to support a supportive role for the teachers.
Okay.
So in my specific job, I train them to be more to be able to help our students access their physical activity environment, and also run small groups and small exercise activities with the kids.
And experience-wise, how did you like mentoring or bringing them up to speed, the paraeducators when you were training them? Did you enjoy the experience? How was it like?
Yeah, no, it's a great experience too, because um, you're able to introduce them to some different strategies and different activities that they weren't really familiar with, that makes everyone successful.
Mhm.
So it's really rewarding to be able to give them those tools that they can continue to use in different areas throughout the school. So for example, if some of the students are at recess or even at lunch playing in different activities, they're able to maybe modify the ball or maybe modify the field, modify the rules of the game to really help everyone be successful.
So you're talking about, I guess this dives into my next question. I was going to ask you about your experience partnering with Special Olympics and aligning the high school with Unified Champion School to set the inclusion standards. But let's go back to the point you just made. Like you're modifying either the field or the ball or whatever it is. And when you're doing these modifications, my first question is, are there various types of disabilities involved in the game, for example, that you guys are playing? And if yes, are able-bodied also participating in these activities?
Yeah, and that's really the idea behind Unified Champion Schools, is having able-bodied and general education students playing right alongside our students with disabilities. The majority of the students that I specifically work with are more students with intellectual disabilities. There are some with physical disabilities, but yeah, like you said, just modifying the equipment, the field, or the rules for everyone to be successful, and then finding those partners to really be willing to foster those friendships and the activity for everyone to get enjoyment out of it.
That's beautiful. And what is the experience of the able-bodied students? Like, how do they usually participate, engage? What is their because they're different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the student with a disability or a challenge is different than the student without a challenge. So how are they usually coping with these exercises?
That's what I enjoy the most about creating that opportunity, is because a lot of students without disabilities don't always have that engagement with people with disabilities. So creating a safe, welcoming environment for everyone to participate is the first step. And then once those students feel comfortable and look at everyone as a person, look at the person before the disability, then the genuine friendships really start coming out. So it's really a really cool thing, because there's some students that just aren't really open to it, and that's okay. But the majority of them, once they engage in that activity and that opportunity, they really enjoy it, and they like the kind of recreation level of sports rather than the ultra competitive area too. So it's good for everyone.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful, man. The job you're doing is great, and it's a shame that to this day we're still talking about inclusion. It should have been done long ago, but I cannot be happier with the work that you're doing. It's really empowering. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, thank you.
Yeah, it's now you also started an inclusive disability awareness club.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us about its mission and what do you do? What do you guys do? When do you meet?
Yeah, that's in alignment with the Unified Champion School that specifically kind of fulfilled the unified leadership aspect of being a Unified Champion School. And for us, this would be the start of our second year doing it. Last year, we have an advisory class where we meet. Last year, we met three days a week. And at the beginning of the year, we were just building friendships between our students with and without disabilities. And then as that grew and their concept of inclusion and their concept of disability awareness grew, then we started creating whole school events where we would have mental health awareness days at lunch, or even we had a week of inclusion in March last year, where each specific day highlighted different disabilities, and we would simulate for different people throughout the school different disabilities and how students with disabilities have to navigate their environment and how difficult it is for them sometimes.
Mm. So, do you have a lot of able-bodied individuals in the club?
Yeah, I mean, we try to do almost close to a one-to-one
Okay.
ratio of students with disabilities to students without disabilities. So last year, I think we had around 30. So we had like 15 students and 15.
Oh, nice. That's great to know, man. That's
Mm-hmm.
great. And what is your approach in teaching PE to these students with developmental delays?
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, your approach in teaching PE to students with developmental delays.
It's really big for me. The first word that comes to mind is patience, and then modification. Everyone and meet the student where they're at. If they're intimidated by certain objects or certain balls, you need to make sure that you adapt those activities and adapt the environment for them to feel safe and not feel intimidated by the situation. So it's really on an individual basis.
So I'm curious, when you went to school and studied physical education, did you know that you were going to end up working with kids with disabilities?
No, I didn't. I mean, my undergrad was just in health and physical education. So my goal was to get out and be a gen ed PE teacher and coach and do that. Because I actually specifically remember taking a diversity class and volunteering at a Special Olympics event. And my reflection, I remember specifically was like, it's not my thing. But my first job out of college was at the special day school that was mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And I just fell in love with students with disabilities and wanted to learn more. So that's when I went back to school for my master's degree.
Oh, nice. Very, very cool story, man. So there's this concept, and I recently learned this concept. You know, I talked about universal design, but every time I talked about universal design or I thought about universal design, it all came to our environment or the equipment that we use, right, in our daily lives. But then I came across this Dr. Terence Brady's talk. He's an Oxford research fellow, and he talked about universal design for learning, like, which is an inclusive educational experiences for learning regardless of their background, ability, or disability, right? I mean, this captivated me. This was really something that was new to me. And I was curious, I thought I asked you this question, if you had heard about the term and whether you used it or not. Obviously, from the sound of it, you seem like you're using it already.
Yeah, and I think that might be the case with a lot of teachers, not just adapted physical education specialists, but yeah, I mean, I was introduced to universal design of learning, or UDL, in my master's program. Mm-hmm. So I had a little through that, I had a little bit of understanding of different principles and concepts of UDL, and yeah, I mean, it's really great underlying structure to really make sure everyone is included and everyone has an opportunity to be successful. So it's definitely something to look into if any of your audience members haven't checked it out.
Nice, yeah, definitely. I will encourage everyone who works with kids and teachers at a school to look at UDL, definitely. Now, you evaluate the students for their motor skills and object control skills. Please give us a brief definition of what challenges these students face.
Specifically, as an adapted physical education specialist, we conduct motor assessments to see if students are eligible for services. So specifically, a lot of our students that are eligible for services are either students that have a physical impairment that restricts their access to the general education environment, or an intellectual disability that impacts their comprehension of classroom instruction, and sometimes creates sometimes a dangerous situation if they're unable to navigate their their immediate environment.
Okay. And after, do you ever deal with like, or have you witnessed kids playing video games, right?
Like physical activity video games.
Yeah. Do you do that at your at where you work?
We haven't, because we haven't had the funds to bring stuff like that in, but I am potentially looking into trying to have an area of our fitness room too, because I mean, for me that would be a really positive reinforcer, because they're playing video games, but in addition to video games, they are staying active. So
Yeah.
it's definitely an area that I don't really have much experience in that area, but there's I'm definitely interested in exploring that.
Yeah. So I'm in the process of writing my book right now, and in it, in a chapter, there's this professor who developed this video game called Orbit, and it's like a trackball, and people with cerebral palsy, right, that don't have the motor skills that you and I have, right, they can play video games. And apparently statistics or their research showed that it's good for inclusion as well, because they're playing with able-bodied children, and sometimes they're engaging better. Like people who don't talk as much are talking more. They're engaging with their peers better. So that's something that you might want to look into.
Yeah, so the device is called Orbit.
Orbit, yes. And
Okay.
I can send you a link, and it's going to be mentioned in my book as well. I mean, obviously, I didn't know about it until I did some research, and it came up. And Orbit was, one of the.
Is it like is it expensive? It sounds expensive.
I honestly don't know how much it costs.
Okay.
But I can send you the link, and you can look into it.
Yeah, check it out.
Like everything, right, in this world, we have to take into consideration the monetary factor, of course,
right,
whether there's the funds or not. And that's something that I'm addressing also in my book. I was writing one chapter today. I don't know, there's this MIT professor, Hugh Herr. He lost his both legs during a climbing accident. So anyway, he ended up designing his own limbs, right? And he works at MIT. He does great research. He even went to Medicare and Medicaid to pursue them that this should be a necessity, so people can get this technology for the betterment of their lives, right? So
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so there's that fight also going on, and I'm going to be in there somewhere one of these days. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. I look forward to it.
So what do you think is still missing today in better establishing a fully inclusive environment?
Really, the opportunities. If every school really committed to an inclusive environment and really creating classes that our students with disabilities had daily interaction with students without disabilities, that I truly believe that that's the best place to start, because if they're able to experience what people with disabilities have to offer from a young age, they're not going to develop the
awareness, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it increases their awareness, and really increases their awareness of how much they have to offer. So it's just gonna make an all around better school environment. But then, like I said at the beginning, create that really inclusive community.
Yeah. No, I mean, I can talk at length about all the problems that our school system have today, but I think it's safe to say that the school model is somewhat obsolete, right? The old-fashioned school model. And I think we need to make a push for better, more inclusive school systems.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's where, I mean, with the current distance learning environment, that's kind of shaken the traditional model up. Yeah. So who knows what's really going to, if some of this is going to be adopted into the future or not. But I agree with you. I mean, there needs to be some sort of shake up to the traditional model.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So let's talk about the companies in general, and companies who develop devices for people with disabilities in particular. What can they do, or are they doing enough to promote and improve inclusion? Now, and I talk about inclusion in my book, and the research shows that there is some work that is being done to promote inclusion in the workplace or what have you, but statistics show that it's not enough. What's your experience with it?
So are you talking about like specific companies that create devices and what they're doing?
Yeah, so companies in general that, that employ people, and then
Uh-huh.
companies who create the devices. I guess you can separate them in two different questions. So let's start by, what does companies in general who employ these people, and you see a disclaimer every time you apply for a job, there's equal opportunity for people with disabilities as well, right? But I mean, I can say this with a clear conscience, that's not the case. It's not an equal opportunity,
Right.
every time. So what do you
Yeah.
think these companies should do?
I mean, that's extremely hard question. But I believe if they were able to have those experiences, like what I was talking about through the high school I'm currently working at, they would understand the benefit and the opportunities that people with disabilities have to offer. So they really should provide space, provide accessibility in a variety of different ways for every employee to be successful in their current work environment. So really allocating funds for different desks or different chairs or different allowing people to work from home if they need to.
Yeah.
They should just really have an open mind to allowing people with disabilities to be to contribute in the best way that they can.
Yeah, absolutely, and I can speak to that as well in terms of, like you said earlier, look at the person, don't look at the disability, right? The
Mm-hmm.
person might or might not. You always evaluate someone whether they can do the task or not. You don't look at how they look. You don't look at what how they walk, how they talk. You just you judge them based on the tasks that they're going to be given and whether they can complete it or not.
All
That's
right.
the main focus.
Yep.
Yep. And what about the equipment that the mobility equipment or any other equipment that these people with the challenges use? Do you
Mm-hmm.
think these equipment, in your experience with the kids that use wheelchairs, canes, or whatever else they use, do you think it's efficient enough?
It's extremely difficult to navigate. It's where each one of our students with disabilities, they have a case manager that really advocates for them to get the devices and equipment that they need. I've seen it take a month or two for it to happen, and I've seen over a year for it to happen. It really just depends on, um, I don't know the details of it, but I would assume insurance and
Yeah.
where those funds are coming from. So
And just to,
I've seen successful cases too, but
Mhm.
I've seen definitely monetary barriers for
Yeah.
a lot of our low income
And just
students.
to be clear, this is equipment for basic functions, right? It's not but like basic functions like walking or like
Yeah,
moving from one place to the other, right?
yeah. I mean, with in addition to adapted physical education as a service, a lot of our students with orthopedic impairments, they have occupational therapy, they have physical therapy, counseling, and some other services as well, but specifically physical therapy and occupational
Mhm.
therapy suggests specialized equipment for them to be successful, for them to access their school environment.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean those devices are always usually challenged to get.
I see. I see. So hopefully we'll get to a time where this will be a necessity and not a luxury, and everybody who needs it for their, basic rights to move around, to see, to hear, to talk, that they can get it without spending extended amount of time with the insurance companies.
Absolutely. That would be the dream.
Yeah. Well, hopefully will be a reality soon.
Yeah.
Um, Ross, thanks again. Thank you very much for coming on. Um, I appreciate your educating us with your experience. Good luck to you, and keep up the good work, man. You're doing a great job.
Awesome. Yeah, and if anybody has any additional questions, my email is ross.moore@greendot.org. And then my Instagram that you found me on was at Unified Saints. And that is just a page that we do a lot of, you could follow along basically of the different disability awareness activities we do and the unified sports. So if anyone's interested in just following along, that's where you can find me.
Definitely, I will. So once I post this video to the different my social medias, I will also include your contact information and how to get in touch with you.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks a lot, man.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.